Hello, Dan Alasso here again with Making History. The Smart Notes book club members from my last Obsidian book club decided that they wanted to read a couple of books synoptically and have a discussion over these over a slightly longer period, maybe a roughly 5 or 6 week period. And these two books that we chose are about the general theme of thinking and knowledge, but are not full-on how-to books like How to Take Smart Notes was. And these books are, first, The Extended Mind, The Power of Thinking Outside the Brain by Annie Murphy Paul. And second, Too Much to Know, Managing Scholarly Information Before the Modern Age by Anne M. Blair. There are 5 chapters in the Blair book and 3 sections of 3 smaller chapters each in the Paul book, which seems to be an easier read. And because the Paul book is a little bit less challenging and a bit more skills-focused, it sort of makes sense to me to front-load the Paul content into the first part of our program. In such a case, the schedule might look something like this. In the first week, the Paul introduction and part 1, which is called Thinking with Our Bodies, and the first chapter of the Blair book, which is called Information Management in Comparative Perspective. The second week, the second part of the Paul book called Thinking with Our Surroundings, and the second chapter of the Blair book, Note-Taking as Information Management. In the third week, the third part of the Paul book called Thinking with Our Relationships, and the third chapter of the Blair book called Reference Genres and Their Finding Devices. In the fourth week, the short conclusion of the Paul book and the fourth chapter of the Blair book called Compilers, Their Motivations and Methods. And then in the fifth week, the fifth chapter of the Blair book, The Impact of Early Printed Reference Books. And this would make the book club a 5-week affair, with the 90-minute discussions on Saturdays, which seemed to work pretty well last time around. And I would propose that we begin it next week, the week of March 27th to April 2nd. And that would mean that I would open an Obsidian vault this weekend, and we would have our first Zoom meeting on Saturday, the 2nd of April, at 10 a.m. my time, which is UTC minus 6 hours. The Smart Notes book club members also discussed continuing the existing Obsidian vault that we had used for the Sonke Aaron's book club. And this has the advantage of continuity for these members who are returning. But it also occurs to me that it might be a little bit of a challenge for any new people who join, who may have been in the Dawn of Everything book club and weren't in that particular cohort, or who maybe have never done a book club with me before yet. So I think I will try to implement this suggestion and reuse the existing vault. But I hope, and I will certainly try to ensure, that we can be very sensitive to new arrivals and make them welcome and help them to become comfortable in the shared workspace, and also active in discussions both in the vault and on Zoom. So if you're going to join us for this new Synoptic adventure, please let me know with an email to confirm, even if you have mentioned in the past to me that you're planning on doing it, just so that I can keep track of everything. And if you weren't in the Smart Notes cohort, or if you haven't been in a book club, you are certainly invited to try it out. I think these are interesting texts, and I think this is going to be a fun reading group. So drop me a line, and I will send you the details. And finally, I want to say I am really looking forward to seeing people again. It has been a hectic end of the winter for me, and I really enjoyed those Saturday morning conversations, which were actually something that I looked forward to as each week came to an end, and they energized me quite a bit. So I'm excited about that starting up again. And I do want to invite people who have been sitting on the fence and thinking maybe they would do something like this, but they just weren't interested in the How to Take Smart Notes thing. This is a really fun, welcoming group, and we have really good conversations. So give it a try. Thanks for listening. Drop me a line if you're interested, or even if you just have questions about it, and I will see you again soon.